We have all been there, feeling stuck like we're spinning in circles without making much progress. Here are 5 sneaky habits that could be keeping you in that same loop. First one, overthinking every decision when thinking becomes the enemy of doing. Overthinking is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't take you anywhere. We have all been there, trapped in our heads, trying to figure out the perfect way to approach something. We tell ourselves that if we think it through every angle, we'll make a better decision. But honestly, it's just fear disguised as overanalysis. Fear of getting it wrong, fear of making a mistake, fear of not being enough. I remember a quote from Mark Manson in The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. Action isn't just the effect of motivation, but also the cause of it. This flipped my understanding of overthinking on its head. We often wait for clarity to act, but what if clarity comes after we act? We think we need to be certain before we start, but often it's in the doing that we gain the clarity we were searching for. Analysis paralysis is a real thing. It happens when we get so caught up in thinking through every possible outcome that we become paralyzed, stuck in an inaction. The ironic part? The longer we overthink, the further we drift from making any decision at all. And it only makes the problem worse. We end up feeling more overwhelmed, more confused, and more disconnected from the thing we were trying to solve in the first place. Let's think of it in this way. Imagine standing at a crossroad. Each road represents a decision, and all you can do is look at them, trying to figure out which one leads to the right outcome. The thing is, you can't know which road will take you where you want to go until you start walking. Sitting there, obsessing over every possibility, won't make the choice clearer. It only delays the journey. Mel Robbins in the 5 second rule encourages us to break this habit by counting down from 5 and then acting. She says you will never feel like it, meaning there is never a perfect moment to act. When we count down from 5, we interrupt the brain's overthinking process and make the leap from thinking to doing. And once we're in motion, everything changes. We stop overanalyzing because we're too busy taking action. I used to struggle with overthinking a lot, especially with big decisions. I'd weigh every pro and con, trying to anticipate every consequence and play out every possible scenario in my head. But all that did was leave me feeling more confused. What I've realized now is that action creates clarity. The moment you step into something, you gain perspective that thinking can't give you. Action leads to feedback, and feedback leads to understanding. Moving on to the next habit, and that is filling your life with distractions. Busy, but not productive. We're living in an age of distractions. Our phones, Netflix, social media, it's all designed to put us in, keep us scrolling, binge watching, and checking notifications. But what we don't realize is that distractions are often a way of avoiding discomfort. We distract ourselves to avoid facing the hard things, the deep work, the self reflection, the difficult decisions. Cal Newport in Deep Work talks about how the ability to focus deeply is becoming a rare skill in today's distracted world. He calls it a superpower. The problem is, distractions are so easy, they're like fast food for our brains. Quick hits of dopamine that feel good in the moment but leave us empty and unfulfilled in the long run. Think about how many times you have picked up your phone to check one thing, only to find yourself scrolling aimlessly 20 minutes later. Or how you have sat down to work on something important, but after a few minutes, you get an itch to check your email or your social media. These micro distractions pull you away from the focused work that actually moves the needle. Here's the thing, Being busy doesn't mean being productive. We have all had those days where we feel like we're constantly doing something, but at the end of the day, we look back and realize we didn't actually accomplish anything meaningful. That's because we have filled our time with shallow work, things that keep us busy but don't lead to progress. Deep work, as Newport defines it, is the ability to focus on cognitively demanding tasks for an extended period without distractions. It's in the state of deep focus where we make real progress. But here's the catch: deep work requires discipline. It requires saying no to distractions and setting boundaries for ourselves. In James Clear's Atomic Habits, he talks about the idea of environment design. If we want to break free from distractions, we need to design an environment that supports focus. That might mean turning off notifications, putting your phone in another room, or setting specific times for focused work. When we create an environment that minimizes distractions, we give ourselves the space to do work that actually matters, that actually means something to us. Distractions are a form of resistance, and they keep us stuck in a loop of shallow work and unfulfilled potential. There's this feeling deep down in the gut that we can do more, we can do better, we can do something meaningful. And that gut feeling just never is fulfilled because of those distractions. The real challenge is training ourselves to resist the pull of distractions and create space for deep, meaningful work. When we can do that, we will feel less stuck because we'll be moving in a direction that aligns with our goals. Moving on to the next habit, and that is hanging around the wrong people. The company you keep defines your path. We often underestimate the power of the people around us. Jim Rohn said it best: you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you're surrounded by negativity, complacency, or people who don't challenge us, it's incredibly hard to break free and grow. It's not about cutting people out of your life for no reason, but it's about becoming more mindful of the energy you are surrounding yourself with. If you were constantly hanging out with people who settle for less or who complain about life without taking action, you'll naturally absorb some of that energy. On the flip side, when we surround ourselves with people who are passionate, driven, and supportive, their energy can inspire and push us to grow. Tony Robbins in Awaken the Giant Within talks about how proximity is power. He means that people we are close to can either lift us up or drag us down. And we have the power to choose who we want to be influenced by. It's like being in the gym. If everyone around you is lifting heavy weights and pushing themselves, you're more likely to push yourself too. But if everyone around you is slacking off, it's harder to find the motivation to go hard. Here's something to reflect on. Who are the people you are spending most of your time with? Are they lifting you up, challenging you, and encouraging your growth? Or are they holding you back, keeping you in the same patterns you have been trying to break free from? It's not just about cutting ties with people, but about being intentional with your time and energy. You don't have to completely remove someone from your life if they're not a positive influence, but you can limit how much time you spend with them, or choose to invest more in the relationships that inspire growth. Fourth habit is always playing the victim. taking responsibility for your life. Playing the victim is one of the most insidious habits that keeps us stuck because it absolves us of responsibility. When we blame our circumstances, other people, or external factors, or why we are not where we want to be, we give away our power. It's easier to say, if only things were different, than to take ownership of our choices and actions. But here's the thing, as long as we are playing the victim, we're choosing to stay stuck. We're telling ourselves that we have no control over our lives, and that's simply not true. In Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl talks about how, even in the most unimaginable circumstances, his time in a concentration camp, he found freedom in his ability to choose his response to suffering. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. If Frank could find empowerment in such extreme conditions, imagine what we can do in our everyday lives when we stop playing the victim and start taking responsibility. The truth is, we always have a choice. We may not be able to control everything that happens to us, but we can always control how we respond to it. When we shift from a victim mindset to a growth mindset, we open ourselves up to possibilities. Instead of saying, "This happened to me," we start asking, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow?" It's not about blaming yourself for things that go wrong, but about recognizing that you have the power to change your situation. Once we take responsibility for where we are, we regain control of our lives. It's empowering because it means we are no longer waiting for something or someone else to change our circumstances. We are taking charge of our own growth. Fifth, and the last habit that's keeping you chronically stuck in life is waiting for motivation to strike. Discipline over motivation. Motivation is fickle. One day you feel on fire, ready to tackle your goals, and the next you can't seem to muster up the energy to do anything. If you're relying on motivation to get things done, you'll stay stuck because motivation comes and goes. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It's showing up day after day, regardless of whether you are in the mood or not. Jocko Willink in Discipline Equals Freedom talks about how discipline is the key to achieving anything. Don't count on motivation, count on discipline. It's not glamorous, but it's effective. In James Clear's Atomic Habits, he talks about how systems and habits are what leads to long-term success. Motivation might get you started, but it's the habits you build that will keep you going. When you create systems for success, you don't have to rely on motivation because the habit carries you through. Let's say you want to write a book. Motivation might get you to write the first few chapters. But what happens when that initial burst of excitement fades? Discipline is what gets you to sit down and write every day, even when you don't feel inspired. Over time, those small, consistent actions add up to something significant and something very meaningful. The key is to create routines and systems that support your goals. If you want to exercise regularly, set a specific time each day to work out. If you want to grow your business, block out dedicated time to deep work. When you build these systems, you don't have to rely on motivation. You just show up and do the work that needs to be done. It's easy to feel stuck, especially when these habits quietly shape our lives. But the beautiful thing is that once we recognize them, we can start breaking free. It's not about overhauling your life overnight, it's about making small shifts, one step at a time. These habits are subtle, but they can have a profound impact on our lives if we don't address them. The good thing is, awareness is the first step to change. Once we see how these habits are keeping us stuck, we can start taking action to break free. We can start building the life we want, one small habit at a time. If any of this resonates with you, let's keep it going. And let me know what's the next small shift you think you could make. And let's take it one step at a time because you've got this.